Aloha, everybody. You see the kind of enthusiasm we generate here. Man, it's contagious, isn't it? Isn't it terrific? Well, maybe, hopefully after these announcements, that kind of enthusiasm will break out everywhere. Aloha. Thank you very much for coming today. Well, we're in the second quarter. You may recall back when we first got started about 18 months ago, I said we're going to have to play all four quarters here. We were coming out of a very, very difficult set of fiscal circumstances, a kind of sinkhole of a deficit that we had to come to grips with, considerable number of layoffs, services that had been decimated, and we had to come out of that. And I'm here to report to you today at the end of the first fiscal year that we've had complete ownership of, if you will, from the transition from the previous administration, that we've moved from a $200 million plus deficit into a positive balance of in excess of $300 million. We are going to be restoring services that have been cut, get personnel back into place in order to see to it that those services are able to be rendered to the people of this state. We're going to be transforming those government services. We're going to be moving towards our new day. We're on the path to the new day, and we're going to see to it that when we have the opportunity to fulfill our obligations to our people, that with the terrific work of our administration and cooperation and collaboration with our public employees and the legislature, that this transformation and this restoration is going to be one that everybody can be proud of. We continue to have a solid, sober, and serious approach to financial management, and it's paying off for us. It's paying off in a way that I think is going to allow us to restore these services, to continue to transform our government in the most positive way. I'm going to be joined by Director Pablo and Director Young to explain in a little more detail precisely what our financial plan has been and where we're going. We're going to stay on track. We are not going to retreat. We are not going back to the kinds of situation that allowed us to slip into a fiscal sinkhole. On the contrary, we're going to keep moving forward on our new day path to fiscal stability and to the kind of positive results that this report engenders today. So first, or let's bring you both up. Calbert, Fred Pablo is going to explain how we're working on the tax side, on the revenue side, and Calbert is going to explain to us where we've been and where we're going in terms of our revenue projections and expenditures. Fred?
Thank you, Governor. We just finished a fiscal year ending June 30th, 2012, with a 14.9% increase in revenue collections. This is a good indication of where the economy is going. It's also a good indication of changes in a transformation of government. At the tax department, for example, we are working as much as we can to improve processing. We're trying to ensure that checks are cashed and processed in the shortest time possible, as well as refunds going to our taxpayers out, going as fast as possible. This has resulted in a better processing and of course, accounting of our revenue collections. Thank you.
Calbert?
Good afternoon, everyone. I take this as an opportunity to give you an update on the overall financial condition for the state of Hawaii. I believe it's been close to about a year since we had a similar discussion. And now with the first 20 months or so of the Governor Abercrombie administration in place, I think the state is in a better financial condition as a business organization. And that is also reflective in the overall economy of the state as a whole. By our estimates, we look like we will have finished the previous fiscal year 2012, which concluded on June 30th, with a positive ending balance by as much as about $300 million. And that's above what was revenue anticipated to have been collected. It's a good thing in the sense that it's a positive balance as opposed to finishing in the negative or in the red. There is some temperance there, though, because we have a lot of programs and expenditure needs that still have yet to be met. The state is by no means in a financial condition of where it was at its peak condition, and we are definitely not at a position where we have fully restored all what we would consider critical services of government. But having said that, I think when we stop and take a breath right now and take a look at where the state currently is, there is reason to be optimistic. There's also reason to be very glad in terms of our efforts that we've done over the last several years to put the state into a better financial condition. And when I say we, I'm speaking very collectively from everyone in the administration, but also all the public worker unions and workers of the state of Hawaii, the legislature included, businesses and community members alike who have helped to endure some of the sacrifices that we have had to make over the last several years. All of those contributions go into contributing to a $300 million positive ending balance. Our contributions have all paid fruit to where we are. I think those contributions will continue to garner increased successes for the state of Hawaii, and we need to continue to move forward improving the state's financial condition even beyond where it currently is. I'll give you some points of why that is necessary. Recently, the state of Hawaii was surveilled for credit rating purposes by one of the rating agencies, Moody's. And in that surveillance of the last couple of weeks, even Moody's reaffirmed the state's current credit rating at an envious AA2. But in doing so, they identified some key financial measures that showed significant improvements. Yes, the improving economy in certain areas, but also the strong financial management demonstrated by the state of Hawaii's administration, and also some key efforts on our part to try and get the state back on some solid financial footings in other areas, such as dealing with unfunded liability issues that we've constantly been talking about, addressing some short-term financing and revenue options, and looking instead to more long-term stability for state government. Those types of progress on the financial side give good confidence to investors out there, as well as on the national scene. Notably, Moody's also identified that as indicative of the state's financial management, the state was able to deliver its annual financial report in 2011, what it would consider on time, which was within 8 months of the conclusion of the previous fiscal year. The state had a difficult time the prior 4 years to that from delivering a financial statement within 12 months of the closing of that fiscal year, so it was historically late. Those types of improvements are indicative to help to give confidence to investors on the national scene that the state of Hawaii is working actively to improve its financial condition. And lastly, I would point out that relative to the global and national news, you see a lot of states, a lot of municipalities under extreme financial distress. We've all been under financial distress over the last several years. The ramifications of that distress and what those states and municipal entities have done over the last several years are now bearing fruit. You have a number of municipalities filing for bankruptcy. You have a number of states that are under extreme distress that are now having to enact serious and draconian cost-cutting measures. And you have other states like Hawaii who have taken a much more prudent approach to improving its financial condition. And you will see over the next several years, I believe, states distancing themselves from each other from those who have been financially responsible and from those who have been ill-prepared to deal with the distress during the last recession. So in conclusion, I would say that we should all, as Hawaii residents and taxpayers, feel very happy, satisfied, and confident in terms of where we've gotten the state thus far, but know that the obligations and requirements of the state in the future are far more expansive than where we currently are. So we have to continue on the progress of improving the state's financial condition. With that, thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Calvert. In sum, then, as I indicated, we're in the second quarter now. We're heading towards we're heading towards halftime. And in this second quarter, we've made the kind of progress that we needed to do in order to get the financial entities like the credit rating companies to understand where we were going, how we were going to get there, and we proved it. We've settled in, and we're going to make progress. We're not going to stop by any means. And I want to make it clear that the progress that we made to this point, as we head towards overcoming the shortfall over the next 2 years, we've probably, by estimates of the legislature, we're going to have a $600 million shortfall over this 4-year period. That didn't take into account what we'd have to do in order to make up for the deficit that we inherited. So we're on our way. We're well on our way to meeting that shortfall. We understand that costs will be expanding. We understand that where those shortfalls are going to be, and we're going to handle it. We're going to move forward on our path to the new day. So I'm very, very pleased with where we are right now. We have fiscal control over where we're going. We're serious. We're sober. And we're very, very happy with the work that our administration has been doing. We'll be collaborating with the legislature, and we'll be working with the public at large to make sure that while others might find themselves in distress, and while others may be trying to take shortcuts that will not work, this state is fiscally stable. This state is moving forward in a manner that's going to reflect credit on all of the sacrifices that have been made to this point, and see to it that we're able to follow a path to progress that we can all be proud of. Yes.
Going and paying for resurrecting programs or positions or cutting taxes?
Yes. It's not so much. Yeah, it's a good, very good question to pose. In other words, how much of those funds, they're not sitting there. This is a dynamic that's taking place. In other words, we continue to be able to pay our bills on time. We continue to be able to take revenue in and have that moving in as bills come in. And in anticipation of the expenditures that are out there. We think there's sufficient flexibility now as a result of the prudent fiscal management we've had to this point to concentrate on restoring some services. Let me give you some practical examples. Just with bees, just by bringing a single person back who's qualified to help deal with the beekeepers across the state, the little niche industry that we have where honey is concerned is being restored. The agricultural inspectors that we needed to have to keep invasive species out. A few of those folks got cut. The whole place was decimated as a result. And what happened? Invasion of coqui frogs and so on that are changing our ecosystem, unable to detect them. The attack of mites in not just where bees were concerned, but with coffee. A key industry in our diversification of agriculture, both for consumption locally and for exports. We have to have those inspectors back on the job. Rat infestation, vector control. I can tell you that my wife and I can tell you we called vector control. Let me tell you, I can tell you from personal experience, they did a terrific job. That was decimated, the terms personnel. When it comes to vector control, should we be spending $72 million a year with the Hawaii Tourism Authority and then have people experiencing rats running over the sidewalk? No, we got to restore these basic services. Water testing, Department of Health, just to be able to make sure that our water is up to par. Dwight Takamini's here from the Department of Labor, getting occupational health and safety, having to work with the federal government because we weren't able to have the personnel there. That's restoring basic services. We're going to see to it that the personnel cuts that were made are going to be addressed, and we're going to get those basic services back. So that's restoration. And transformation of government services, we're going to be taking a look at furthering our capital improvements projects, our private-public partnerships across the board. We're going to sustain the teachers and the principals and the staff in the schools. We've just had a terrific rise across the board in math and reading because regardless of what kind of pilikia went on in terms of contract negotiations, we've been supporting the teachers in the classrooms. Our elected Board of Education has been getting the job done. We've been reaching out to the teacher in the classroom and the staff at the school level, and we're going to continue to do that. So, yes, we're going to have a little flexibility as a result of the prudent fiscal management that we've engendered since we took office. And as a result, we're going to be able to restore some of those services and continue to transform the government in a way that's going to take us toward a new day of energy sustainability, of agricultural sustainability, of educational excellence.
In late May, the Council on Revenues reduced the FY13 forecast to 5.3% growth, which was down from 7.5% at the time. Calvert Young, the budget director, said that the restoration wouldn't be happening at the pace that you guys had hoped. Is that now different? Are you now going to restore beyond what was in the budget approved by the legislature? I mean, what are you guys looking for? How do you
No, we have our game plan. By law, we have to observe what the Council of Revenues tells us is a projection. It's an educated guess, and it's an educated guess that we have to pay close attention to when we make our projections. But that's why we are so careful about the way we spend our dollars. That's why we are approaching our collective bargaining, by approaching our programmatic emphasis. That's why we're adding hardware and software to make the workers we do have more efficient. So the game plan that we have is based on the Council of Revenue's projections, but we also have a plan B and a plan C in case those numbers change, whether they go up or whether they go down. We are prepared in any event. Our departments all receive instructions. If we're at this level of revenue, what's the game plan? If you're at another level of revenue, we have a different game plan. We're prepared across the board. Obviously, it's good news when those projections turn out to actually increase rather than decrease as they have. So we're pleased about that, and we're prepared to act accordingly. These numbers are real. There is no more playing accounting tricks. When we give you these numbers, they're solid numbers. When our departments put up their game plans, they're based on solid numbers. So the positive balance that we have now, that's real. And we hope that continues and enables us to carry through in all of our plans.
Albert, do you have any ballpark figures that you know of yet for a couple of the unknowns that are related to public employment? Looking backward, the costs associated with make goods on the most favored nations clause, and then looking forward, what we're looking at for collective bargaining in the coming time. In other words, how much of this 306 will also be have to set aside for favored nation going backwards, collective bargaining going forward?
Well, as it currently stands, all provisions for the favored nations provisions have been appropriated by the legislature in 2012. What this 300-odd million represents that I speak of is the amount of revenue that was collected and amount of expenditures that were not, appropriations that were not actually expended below what the legislature was appropriated. So that in combination equals the 300 million. I think getting back to Derek's question also, it would relate to, it's not that we can go beyond what was appropriated in the legislative budget, but I think it helps make it a little bit easier to make the decisions on what parts of the legislative appropriation in the budget we can now actually get to funding. So part of that was the collective bargaining increase for favored nations. That was appropriated by the legislature. That's taken care of. For future collective bargaining items, I think it gives all of us some hope and optimism that if we can preserve positive ending balances at the current level, if not more, that at least the discussion of restoration of salaries can be relevant in the future. But as it stands right now, through the rest of this current fiscal year, through June 30th of 2013, all collective bargaining contract arrangements that have agreements are fully funded by the legislature and in the budget, and this money here that I speak of is irrelevant to that.
Some of the criticisms you had through Moody's, not you specifically, but that Hawaii's had is about the ERS and the debt that we have there and other expenses. Can you talk a little bit about, is there any kind of reduction of that and what's happening with those balances?
Yes, when I mentioned earlier about the obligations and requirements, the large amounts that the state still has to meet, I'm speaking in part to those particular items. Although $300 million may seem like a lot of money for the state of Hawaii, the actual obligations just in those two areas alone exceed $21 billion. The state has not been funding the EUTF unfunded liability for retiree health cares. That's got to get fixed, and you can't fix that overnight. But we're definitely in a better position to at least entertain the question about how to get there when you have a positive balance. But our positive balance is nowhere near what is necessary to meet that obligation. Similarly, collective bargaining, for instance, if there is to be a change beyond July 1, 2013 for collective bargaining, we will have to make some decisions whether or not the state will dedicate some portion of its positive ending balance to that venture, or to say some other need that the state currently has. The governor mentioned restoration of some programs and some positions. There's a lot more. I would say they do exceed $300 million in costs to fund all of those.
Any taxes or fees that you think could go in the lower direction as a result of the overage?
We're thinking of putting in a television station tax. Yes, I was going to say. Unfortunately, if they can't broadcast, we can't get anything, then can we? Poor things. Poor things. Yes, of course. But that's the whole point, is we've got obligations. The reason that we have the positive balance we have is that we have a sound spending plan. We have a sound game plan going into the future. We're budgeting towards the future. And so this is money on account is really what it is. And that account takes into account the expenditures that you can expect to have to meet. And whether it's in terms of health care and the unfunded liabilities there, whether it's in terms of pensions, whether it's in terms of trying to restore pay cuts that have been taken in order to help us balance the budget and to get into a sound fiscal foundation. So we're very pleased that we're on track. And so the present contracts that we have are in place and will be in place for the next fiscal year, and that what we project from that towards the next 2 years will take into account what we know our expenditures will be, and to try to take into account some of the contingency that we might have to meet with regard to expenditures. But we think we have a pretty solid idea of what our basic obligations are going to be financially, and we're going to try to improve those. The reason we have this terrific credit rating, the reason that the credit rating companies are rating us as well as they do and projecting towards the future is they know that this governor is going to stick to a financial game plan that makes sense. Other states may be trying tricks with their accounting. They may be in situations where they solve their problems by laying people off by the thousands. They may be going further into debt in order to try to mask the difficulties that they have. We are not going to do that. I'm going to be sticking to a sound fiscal program, a sound fiscal plan, And the result will be is that we'll be able to meet our obligations. We'll be able to restore services. We'll be able to keep everybody working. And we're going to take a big step forward in stabilizing what has been a steadily increasing debt with regard to unfunded liabilities. We're going to face up to that. The credit rating companies across the nation believe us when we say that, because our actions are speaking louder than words about it. We're not just talking about it. We're taking action on it, and it's succeeding.
On the tax question, though, there was a temporary on GDP exemptions, for example, that many businesses complained about.
Mhm.
Would you consider asking the legislature to restore those exemptions since you're in a positive balance situation? I can see a conflict with folks that felt they were paying taxes to help with the deficit, but now they'll be paying these taxes to help with public employee pay raises or contributions in the future to unfunded liabilities. Will you consider asking the legislature?
Well, everybody has to meet the responsibilities that we have for financial requirements. When you say that, when the phrase unfunded liability comes, liability means it's a liability. We owe this money. This money is going to have to be paid. If we don't do a single thing differently tomorrow, this is already there. It's an obligation that we have. So our financial game plan takes that into account. Now, what the legislature wants to do or not do with regard to dealing with the shortfall over the next 2 years is something that we'll have to take up in time to come. The reason being that the projections made at the time the excise tax increases were put into effect, the revenue projections made at that time haven't panned out. I think the revenue coming in was less than what was projected. On the other hand, there's been some growth in the general revenues in a greater amount than what was either projected or contemplated. So I can't give you the definitive answer on what we might do until we examine the fiscal game plan that we will present to the legislature this fall. But obviously, we're going to take all of that into account.
Also, Derek, I'll just add that the specific general excise tax suspension items that you referenced, when the legislature passed those, they were temporary. Those exemptions actually sunset naturally on June 30th, 2013, so just at the conclusion of the next legislature anyways.
Yeah, I simply can't predict what the legislature will decide to do with what it has already deemed a sunset and an end. In other words, they're going to come to the end in June of 2013 anyway, unless they change it. So we'll have to talk with the Finance Committee and the Ways and Means Committee and the leadership of the House and Senate and see what their will is at this point.
Governor, back in December, you announced the sale of, I guess, more than $1 billion in bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And of that, you said $800 million was going to be used for new projects. Mm-hmm. And now here in your statement here, you say about $331 million has been allocated. Is
Mm-hmm.
that, of that money, is there still?
There's more coming.
470 million that you have not spent in CIP?
No. Well, I'm moving out the CIP as fast as it makes sense to us, and the credit rating agencies have recognized that by continuing our good credit rating, and so I certainly hope that we'll be at 800 million. Maybe we'll be more, maybe we'll be less, but that's the goal. And but in terms of what is available to us, Calvert and his team negotiated these terrific credit rates, these interest rates, on the basis of our fiscal plan. And so we have the capabilities of doing that much. I will certainly try to take advantage of every dollar that we're allowed under what we negotiated. And I certainly hope that we'll be able to get up to that figure.
Why aren't you spending more now? If it's available to you and people are saying that they need jobs, why aren't you pushing more jobs out the door if you've got $800 million in money to use?
Well, you do the jobs as the projects arise. I think that I can say with certitude that every single project that is eligible to get moving is getting moving under our administration, and that the jobs associated with those projects are forthcoming in regular order. So I have no reason to believe that the maximum amount of dollars and projects dollars available for the projects that we have money appropriated for and permit authorization to begin. Every one of them is underway. Every single thing is moving. They're at just different stages.
Governor, what do you attribute these positive numbers to? I mean, is there anything specific, for example, like the impact and its residual effects causing increased numbers and things, or what do you attribute it to?
Well, there's a combination of things, and I'll let Fred and Calbert speak to that. But I can tell you, when we came into office at one point, Fred and Calbert came to see me and said, Governor, we have no clue as to how much money is coming in, and we have no clue as to how much money is going out. We're not even sure we can pay the bills at the end of the month. You may recall we had to borrow money from the rainy day fund and the hurricane fund just to make sure that we were able to pay our bills. And what's happened is that Fred and his team at the tax department has transformed that department so that we're bringing in revenue in a timely way, and we're getting out our refunds and other obligations, paying our bills in a timely way. So financially, we have a much more accurate picture of where the revenues are, and as a result, we've been able to make decisions with expenditures that are far more rational than they were before. So I think part of it is a matter of accounting, and then as far as the revenues are concerned, we've been increasing those revenues in part because of tourism, in part because of the economic activity we generated with our CIP, our capital improvement projects going out there and engendering tax dollars. There's been an improvement as a result of the excise tax adjustments that the legislature made, not all in as great a number as we might have wished, but nonetheless a positive number coming in from that. And then in the way we're expending our dollars. We're efficient, we're accurate, we're getting increased productivity from a decreased number of employees. Everybody's been working hard. They've all put their paddle in the water and all pulled together. So I think the combination of improving our infrastructure, a more efficient government, a solid financial plan, utilization of the interest rates that are low because credit agencies recognize the financial soundness of the management of this administration. All of it has worked towards giving us this positive balance. Calvin?
I would just add to the governor's statement that if you want looking for quantitative numbers of the $300 million as the positive ending balance, I would estimate that $127 million of that is attributable to revenues collected beyond the projection of council revenues estimates. So I would attribute that to an indication of the soundness of the current improving state overall economy. But the majority of that $300 million is actually attributable to what I would consider internal financial management of the state. And that would include the contributions made by our workers in the public workers unions in terms of some labor savings that are currently underway. Also the sound management of the operations of each of the individual departments in the state to ensure that their operations and expenditures do not exceed their legislative appropriations in the budget. The majority of that $300 million, therefore, is largely attributable to internal financial management of the state.
We've had very strict allocations to every one of our departments in order to keep our expenditures within the financial game plan that Calbert and his crew have laid out for us, and we've done it without laying anybody off. Everybody's working, and our departments are spending the funds that I've allocated for them in a super efficient way, and the employees have responded accordingly by maximizing their productivity. This is something as a result of everybody cooperating, everybody putting their paddle in the water. I know that it sounds to some people, well, why are you always making that analogy? I'm making that analogy because that's what we do in Hawaii. We understand what it takes to get the canoe to the shore, that if we don't all work together, if we don't all sacrifice equally to help one another out, that we're not going to succeed. And so we are. About 2 out of every 3 of those dollars is as a result of this administration seeing to it that we operate the government the way it's supposed to operate on behalf of the taxpayers and not take advantage of them. Oh, yes, yeah. I probably should have elaborated. I'm sorry. I did bring that up because I wanted to indicate, where we had to try and get funds from. We don't have to do that now. Now, as a result of the terrific work that Calbert and his team did in going to refinance part of our existing debt, for example, and to get the bond issue authority, we were able to save, because we were oversubscribed. That is to say, more people wanted to be involved with investment in Hawaii than we anticipated, because they believed in the solid fiscal management of the state. That we were able to ask for a better rate, ask if we could get even a better offer, and we did. As a result, we saved approximately 150. What was the savings?
We refinanced about $59 million
Yes.
for savings. $59 million in savings.
And we were able to apply those savings. Could have applied them towards the rainy day fund and the hurricane fund. Now the legislature has the prerogative there, and they decided that they wanted to spread that money out elsewhere. Because they had confidence that we were going to continue to administer the state correctly. So the point was that the funds were available. Had the legislature desired to fully restore the funds at that point to the hurricane fund and the rainy day fund, they could. They decided to disperse the funds a little more broadly than that, and of course that's their prerogative. The point is that both the credit agencies, the legislature, and this administration knows that the money was there to be distributed according to the legislative will. So they have a lot of confidence in us.
I think if you have any more questions for the directors, please let me know and I can set that up.
Okay. Thank you very, very much for being here, and thanks to all of the great work that's done by all of the employees, as represented by the deputies and the directors that are here today. I'm sure any of them will be glad to speak with you about what they're doing, and all of them will be happy to tell you how proud we are of the collective partnership that we have with our departments and all the employees of the state. Thank you very, very much.